Hi there. Welcome back to a little bit of Hardcore Grim Dawn, QuestySparks, Lightning and Plague. And just decided to jump in. I usually leave recording videos up until the last possible minute, which is my general philosophy to life. But I felt like jumping in here and playing a little bit of this character, so a little bit of midweek recording. Part of it is that this is now my most successful hardcore character after what I like to call the great ripping of my remaining higher level character. Just one of those things where I'd pressed ahead to higher difficulty level and was fighting a boss and just kind of had that realization like, well shit, I'm gonna die here and lose my pyromancer, which I then did. So this guy, QuestySparks, is now my my lead character in hardcore, mainly because I'm terrible and should feel terrible, but can't really summon the care factor for that. But today, what we're doing, we've just sort of taken care of one side of the homestead node, killed the queen of the impronounceable bugs. Killed the amalgamation, and we have selected our side or our allies in this cause, which is the Death's Vigil, sort of a necromancy approach. And now we're going to head out into the Blood Grove and areas like that. Game is picking up, I will say that. And also, it is a little bit getting towards the end of the original game. The original game didn't go on too terribly much longer than this, though we do have some, bunch of levels to get through yet, but we are sort of in the home stretch, you could say. And then, of course, we've got the DLC, or we've got the option to jump forward to Elite difficulty, which is probably what we'll be doing. And again, I'm getting ahead of myself, because as I've recently demonstrated to myself, I'm super shit at the game, so getting myself killed in hardcore is kind of a big part of my game plan. So we'll have to see, this character is quite strong, but I have a habit of just, not paying attention or making terrible decisions and immediately getting myself murdered, so we'll find out. The pyromancy thing was just dumb, right? Because I was just sort of marveling. I had all this gear from my ill-fated ritualist that I also got killed. And so I ended up, this is obviously the pyromancer, very fire and chaos based. So I had all this gear and it just kind of, it was like, made me stupid. It was just like, wow, look how much damage I'm doing. I'm like 1100% more fire damage, 1200% more burn damage. This is great. Let's go frolic in Elite. I think it was Elite. Yeah, I don't think it was Ultimate. I think it was Elite. Not sure. But anyway, I'd sort of addressed some of my problems with resist. Sort of. And I'm like, yeah, it's not as critical as it was when I first tried to play Elite on this character. I'm not as fragile, but it turns out being fragile at all on hardcore is kind of a little bit of a downer. And I actually, you know what, I shouldn't even admit it. You'll note earlier how I said a boss, mainly because I didn't want to humiliate myself by saying which boss. I died to Warden Krieg on my pyromancer. Thank God nobody watches these. That would be embarrassing if somebody did. Kind of one of those things where it's essentially with the pyromancer, the damage that you put down it's ground damage, and because he has so many wide area attacks, and I was again flimsy as fuck, you could say, I had to keep moving, and I sort of kept kiting him out of my damage, and so instead of getting the really high DPS that I was putting out, I was sort of getting a downgraded version of my DPS. Of course, every time you do less DPS, the enemy stays alive longer and has more time to fuck you up. And that's kind of what was happening. Like, I could just sort of see, like, you'll get... this game's a lot less like Path of Exile. Like, Path of Exile, basically, you'll be happily clearing a map, and then, something will fly in, possibly from off screen, and just blow you to pieces and instantaneously kill you. This game is not like that. You tend to have that good moment of realization where you're like, I think I'm going to die. Like my shit's in cooldown. I can't heal. I'm, my damage or my health is degrading. I think I'm going down. And that's exactly what I had time to sort of stare it in the face and realize that I was going to get my ass kicked. Hey, speaking of me being awesome at this game, look at that. I've leveled halfway up through the next level and I forgot to level my character. Again, I'm just such a great example for anyone who actually does watch these. All right, but what I have been doing, I think, is I've been developing my vulnerability curse to bring in a little bit more degradation to their elemental resistance, give my lightning a better grip on them. And we may as well check here too. Oh, look at that. No points sitting around there. So I actually did remember to upgrade my devotions. If I happen to be rambly or whatever, it's just because I'm very relaxed. It's quite late at night here. And I'm upping my intermittent fasting just because I sort of hit the upper limit of my target body weight. So I decided I might go a little bit harder. I was talking to my sister the other day, and she's been doing intermittent fasting as well. Like we both have for like the last couple of years, just as part of like maintaining health. And she was saying like, oh yeah, I'm kicking it up a notch before, because her husband's just getting back from Europe. Lots of rambly stories here. But anyway, yeah, so she said, oh yeah, I've kicked it up to 1 meal a day format. So, fuck that, 1 meal a day? God damn. So I'm actually kind of trying that. Not necessarily 1 meal a day, but usually what I have is I'll have sort of a, initial like breakfast kind of late morning at work, and then have my lunch, and then sort of a dinner like early after work, and then so I can get that sort of 16-hour break in. So I'm just trying to upgrade that just a little bit. So I had lunch at work today and then nothing after that. So I'm going for the gusto. But as per usual, you tend to hit that lower energy state towards evening when you do that. And so I will say that's one of the things about intermittent fasting that I didn't 100% expect, was that my sleep patterns would get a hell of a lot better from it. Mainly because of that thing where you're a little bit low energy. Anyhow, there's the exciting news on my my eating patterns. I am remembering why I feel so good about this character, though. Cleanly carving through these fools. This is actually a fairly interesting spot in the game, too. There's going to be a bunch of stuff here. There's, I think, our first visit to the Chthonic realm, where all these nonsense little demons are coming from. You'll see. Pretty sure it's the first. Look at that. We finally get a note on the amount. Wait, no, that's not true. I've just been forgetting to read my lore. I was going to say, why am I picking up a note on the amalgamation? And why didn't I stow this stuff? I sort of specifically mentioned the inventory management here. I always keep my my constant carry items, dynamite, healing potions and stuff in the farthest bag over, so that I never end up dumping stuff in there while I'm just wandering around. Just kind of helps me keep my inventory a little bit tidier. I'm gonna skip over a little bit of that because I don't think there's anything I have to get there right now. So I'm just gonna continue to press ahead. As you can see here, as I was mentioning, we picked our allies. And now you can see here that we're basically in the middle of a war zone, so we're not the only ones fighting. Essentially, the Blood Grove is kind of, and this area here is a little bit of the front line where forces are mixing, right? So as with Everywhere After the Grim Dawn, being, the event that kicked off the ethereal invasion of the world, basically, they're sort of mixed in all over the place. And these guys here, the Bloodsworn, they sort of, they took advantage of that, right? Because in general, the Empire, who, of course, the Black Legion that we're working with, they're, forces of the Empire, and Inquisitor Creed and all these guys are Imperials, essentially. And they were kind of keeping these cults in check. One of the classes that you can play, the Inquisitor, they're essentially, that's kind of their job. That's their role, right? Is they keep the cults and stuff down, keep people safe. Well, of course, as soon as we started getting invaded from ethereal space, the Empire got real busy. And so these guys here decided, now is the time when we bring Chthon the Blood God back. And incidentally, interestingly enough, I should say, the Ethereals, they know the Chthonians, the Sithonians, however you pronounce it, and they do not like them. So essentially what you ended up with was these guys drawing a bunch of the Chthonian sort of demons into the world, who immediately sort of went to war with the Ethereals, who were also invading this world, sort of leaving the Black Legion and us and everyone else in between this war of these horrible invaders and whatnot. But if there's one thing we can do, it is face stomp the Bloodsworn, because they are genuine assholes. So and you'll see that if you work your way through the villages here and stuff like that. You can see what they've been up to, and it's no good things. So this is just a little random encounter. Ralia here is somebody that we can meet up with later in the game. Actually, in the DLC, the Ashes of Malmoth expansion pack. So basically what's happened here is she is a witch. And Nathaniel Thorne and his friends here have captured her and are planning on burning her at the stake. So we're going to have a quick chat with her. We've asked him to hang on a second. So we can actually just light her up. I've never actually done this, and I don't know what that looks like, and I'm not going to do it now. So we can kind of talk to her. Basically, she's just saying, they caught her using magic. They caught her using ether fire, and so they assumed that she was possessed by an ethereal. Now, if you'll remember correctly, this is kind of what happened to us as well. We were hung, though. We weren't burned, which is really fucking good, because as we sort of passed close to the realm of death, as we got close to death, the ethereal actually fled our body. So people saw the spirit leave us, and the spirit weaver in Devil's Crossing was able to convince them to save our lives. And so that's where we are. And now we're going to pass on the favor, and we're going to save Ralia. So we can ask her, like, how do I know you're telling the truth? And basically she looks right through us and says, you of all people should know better than to accuse people of being taken. Message sent. We got a second chance. We're going to give her a second chance. Now, we can attempt to speak to Nathaniel, but you know what? He's kind of being a little bit of a dick about this whole burning thing, so let's just fucking kill Nathaniel and, take care of her. Now, you see, Nathaniel's actually a little bit tough. Not really, but his friends, not so much. They just got discarded. Okay, so there we go. Now we've saved Ralia, and we're not going to see her for a little while. So normally I choose this, but she only gives us one chance at chatting, so I'll just kind of bring this up. You should work on that, blocking your thoughts. Not all mind readers are as benevolent as I am. Nevertheless, you're not taken either, though the after effects on your mind are astonishing. It's as if the ethereal was rearranging your brain. Rearranging how? Hard to say. Perhaps you should ask the one that did this to you. And then she laughs at me. Thanks, Ralia. And then she just basically, says, that they got the drop on her, whatever. So anyway, it's kind of an interesting encounter. You do see her later in the game, like I said, and I love the fact that it references back to that a number of times. And I love the fact that that's presented as the why of us being here, right? Like when you look at this, you're like, well, why can't all these other people do what we do? Like, why are we this character in the world? And I sort of love that, you know, in games, you don't really have to say that, right? Like, why is your character in D&D capable of taking like 89 great swords to the head when everyone else just dies right away? Nobody really explains that, but in this game, they kind of do. You are not normal. You were affected by this. You were inhabited by one of these ethereals, and it remixed your gray matter in ways that are unpredictable. So when you do crazy shit, when you learn skills that nobody else has, there's a reason for it. It's nice. It's a little bit of background. Oh, there we go, level 36. I actually forget how fast you level in this. Mainly because I kind of was fiddling around in higher level characters, right? So things are slowing down just a touch. This guy's still in the quick stage. So you can see what I'm collecting here. I'm collecting these Black Legion insignias. I need one more. And this goes back to, man, these things are dime a dozen. But I always mouse over them because we might get like a triple rare or something like that, which would definitely be worth picking up. Okay, leveling up. Once again, we're bouncing between physique and spirit, but you can tell we're getting a bit of a lead on spirit, and physique makes us a little harder to kill. Let's do that. Once again, I'm liking where we're going here. So I think I'm going to continue and just max this out. Okay, we are there, so we're +2 on vulnerability. So that's debuffing more than a quarter of their elemental resistance. That's really good news. We do have one more point though. So we have a couple options here. One thing we're going to want to do eventually is we're going to want to get to Stormcaller's Pact. There's a pinnacle ability for the shaman. The other thing we want to do is we want to improve our durability, which is going to be developing our Mugdragon's Pact here. This will also improve our durability because we'll be adding a bunch more points, which will add a bunch more stats. I am, however, tempted to first bump this up. We don't necessarily need it right now because we're not taking a lot of damage, but this is a big survivability thing for me. And getting a little bit into this before I come up against enemies that are kicking the shit out of me, probably a good idea. And that ether resistance that it's going to grant me is probably a good idea as well, because as you can see, we're at 24%, and we do have a couple of combats coming up where we're going to actually want that. So let's dump that point in here and let's start building that a little bit, going a little bit more defensive. All right, and then let's press on. And that is the other thing we can do as well is, you know, we will be eventually wanting to jack up our... Okay, there we go. That's completion on that. So we'll stop picking those up now. What was I saying? Yeah, whatever, I forget. The other thing we're doing out here is we're looking for, I didn't even mention it when I picked it up, but we were picking up quests from the Death's Veil guys, Death's Vigil, I should say, and we're gonna find the remains of this, you know, one of their number, like some old necromancer or whatever, that these Bloodsworn have kind of stolen. So we'll find that, and that starts a pretty good chain there. Death's Vigil is actually really good, especially if you're playing pets. They're pretty good for that. Although I will say that the faction rewards, they get a heck of a lot better in the DLCs, I find. Not that they're bad in this, but just maybe not sort of... Man, I really like the damage output that this has. Like, the fact that you just leave your damage laying around and keep moving is so good. Like, the fate that I suffered on my Pyromancer, like, I mean, it's still one of those things where you leave your damage behind, but the problem is you leave it in one place, and so if you're kiting around and trying to avoid the enemy, you can kite the enemy away from your damage, whereas with this one, the reach of those totems is so good. Like, that just lets you kind of run around and the enemy just keeps getting tagged. Really Really, really good setup. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I keep saying that, but that's only because it's really hard to talk for like an hour when you're recording something. All right, now I did say earlier on, oh, hang on. See that on the edge of the mini-map there? Devotion Shrine. Let's go and tag that, but then we're going to have to, we technically don't have to, and I'll explain why. Oh, okay, let's pay attention. This guy is ranged and can do a ton of damage. You see he's doing a soul drain there, which is why his health is back up, because he actually can drain health. So let's just try to get totems on the ground. Let's make sure we keep him tagged up with all of our debuffs. Look at this guy though, look at him tank that damage. I mean, his little minions that he summons in are not really up to it. They are going down incredibly fast. Okay, we got totems on him. Come on, you know you want to. Oh, he just pulled a little more life out of me, the jerk. There we go. All right, yeah, he's a little bit tough. He can occasionally actually do some damage, but okay, yeah, so let's grab this, and then the Chthonian realm here that we're going to go visit is optional. It's fun, which is why we're going to go visit it, but it is optional. And the reason for that is that what you're retrieving from it isn't something you need. Essentially, this is the first of a few portals that you can go through. And when we're in here, we're going to find one of the items required to restore a specific shrine. We may already have the quest. Maybe not. I kind of thought it came from the rovers. But anyway, we're going to find a shrine that we basically can't clear. We need some specific items. And it also... What am I doing? Idiot. It's also a pretty interesting spot because basically what it is, it's the Shrine of McDragon, right? So you know we're using McDragon's pack. Well, he's a god, right? But the gods are a little bit different in this. They're not your traditional D&D gods. You actually get to interact with them a bit. And when you clear the shrine, an avatar of McDragon comes down and, you know, kind of... Yeah, good job, mortal. What do you want, a fucking cookie? And the best part is, you can kind of get up in his face. Like, you can basically say, like, hey, you know, we're being invaded by, like, ethereals and shit like that. What are you doing, man? And you can provoke him into a fight. And it is one of the premier boss fights in the game. I've never killed him. I did kind of come a little bit close in co-op with a buddy of mine, but... The issue is that, you know, he would always manage to bring one of us down and then he would heal, you know, like a quarter of his health or whatever. And it just, we couldn't do it. We couldn't bring him down. But it's really cool that you have those relationships, right? Because it's like, normally you can just claim that. He'll give you like a skill point or whatever. And you know, you just kind of fuck off. But you can pick a fight with God and, well, with an avatar of God and just get your ass handed to you. But the reality is, you can kill him. He's a killable boss. There's an achievement for it that I will get on one of these characters. Probably not hardcore because I'm not a complete idiot. But, you know, there's all these little goals, right? Like the presumption being like, if you get a powerful enough character, you go take him on. Like I actually have in softcore, I have a level 100 Conjurer, which is actually what I'm playing right now, but it's a totally different build. It's actually the character that I'm fussing around with, in my channel intro video. And it's a conjurer that uses pets, but I basically only wander around with 2 pets. But the moment that I engage in combat, my attacks start to proc other pets. So basically within a few seconds of combat, I've got probably a dozen pets or so out in the battlefield. Really, 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 really fun character and really powerful as well. And I might take some stabs at killing McDragon on that if I can. Because you only really get to do it once, right? You can do it once per difficulty level. And I don't remember whether that was one of the characters that I already tried on. And it's sort of that thing now where I'm just like, okay, I want to stack this character up. I want crazy good gear in every slot just to try to like kill that guy for the first time. And I know like a lot of players will just be like, you haven't killed him? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? It's like, well, as we established earlier, I'm fairly shit at the game, right? I'm like basically, I'm like a 3,000 hour casual, essentially. And so I just haven't done some of that stuff. You know, I don't even know where all the bosses are. Like, I know there's stuff in this game that I've never even seen yet. So I'll find it. And I'll kill him eventually. I'll get there. I'll record it whenever I make an attempt on him. Just so that you can see my horrible shame as I get my ass beat by a god. That was a lot of damage right there. I gotta pay attention. These guys here are kind of dicks. Like, depending on the difficulty level, sometimes they can be a bit of a hassle. They have that Nova that they do, which gives you, I think, a big vitality decay hit, which is actually kind of a bummer. The part where they're dangerous is in the early section of the game where you first meet these guys. There's a boss there that drops a sword, allowing you to summon them, which is kind of cool. Harbinger's Blade or something like that. But anyway, when you're fighting those guys really early in the game, they have a lot of these effects, right? They can throw down those, they do all kinds of stuff. So you can find yourself at really low health, and then that Nova just like wipes you at the end, right? Very annoying. But, you know, realistically, if you know what they do, they're not usually that big of a deal. This is another area where you want to keep moving all the time, though. You can see these guys are launching a lot of those range attacks at me, and getting volleyed down is certainly possible here. So, again, though, this character, I'm gonna have to be a real dumbass to get this character killed in this veteran playthrough, just because it's not super hard, right? Like, the only places at veteran difficulty that I sort of fear to tread, you know, unless I'm over leveled, is essentially the final 2 boss encounters of the Forgotten Gods content, because they're sort of very, you know, the second to last encounter in that is it's sort of like you're in an arena that does let's pay attention to this guy, I guess. You're in an arena that does a lot of damage to you. It's sort of like you know, if you're familiar with like Combs Arena in the older Path of Exile. It's showing my age, right? Or the amount of time I've been out of that game. I haven't played it in a while. There you go. Monster infrequent there. And so it's basically, you know, the floor is magma, essentially. So you take a lot of damage, and it can kind of get up and overwhelm you a little bit, the amount of damage that you're taking. It's not terrible. As long as you got a lot of fire resist and chaos resist, you're pretty good. But the one that's actually really bad, it's the final boss, which again, you know, you're beating up on a god, right? So it's nothing to sneeze at. But there's a lot of like real sort of bullet hell stuff going on in it. And so it's one of those things where it's like it can just get ahead of you. Like it just get out of hand and you end up dying. So it's like I kind of fear it a little bit, you know, unless I'm really stacked on resistances and stuff like that. So that's one where I shied away from it. Like when I was doing when I had my ritualist and I was playing through in hardcore, I actually waited and I went back to finish that content because I was like, I don't know, you know, and it was a good thing I did too, because I was over leveled for the content when I got in, or not really over leveled because it is scalable. But it was more that I was just, okay, let's head out. Or no, wait, let's not head out because we don't... Did we pick up the item we're in here for? No. Okay. So I wasn't over leveled, but it was more a case of just getting more skill nodes unlocked and getting the gear that I wanted so that I was a little bit more survivable. Probably saved my character's life and got me that kill. But that is potentially something we'll see on this character. I mean, it's one of those things, right, where this game to me, a lot of the time, I'll just kind of relax and like be watching YouTube and playing this. Obviously not right now while I'm recording, but it's more like a nice relaxing game, and we are advancing quite slowly through it because of the recording. Generally, you can really fly through this game, but obviously we're you know, spanning it out like a little bit here and a little bit there kind of thing. Did I entirely miss? Pretty sure I missed the way either deeper or whatever. You know what? Fuck it. Okay, I don't care. I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna go. I probably missed the drop. I'm not even going to do the quest. I don't care. I'll do it at a higher difficulty level, obviously. Not right now. These areas are good, though. I mean, look at the XP, right? Like, we dinged and then we're almost up again. So, it's good that way. Not a waste of time, just not really worth it. But yeah, again, can't really remember what I was blithering on about, but you know, these are the breaks. We are on 30 minutes as well, so I think probably what I'll do is try to kind of quickly rip up ahead here and... Oh, for crying out loud. I was looking at my map, you fucks. Have you no shame? Another little side area here. I'm going to just bust ahead to the next waypoint and... Alright, fine, I'll stop and murder these pricks on my way through. And then I'll probably hop back to town and then we'll call it. Oh, we're not worrying about the we're not worrying about this here because we just don't need that anymore. Actually, now that I think about it, fuck. Now that I think about it, through the power of pause, I'm going to check. Yep, 100%. I forgot to pick up Malkadar's Remains. This is the quest that we were doing for the Death's Vigil. And that one I do want to do. So I'm going to grab that and get back on course here. So just across here, we're going to bump into the next waypoint and head back to town. So just about there. It's almost as if I time this out. I don't, but it's almost as if I do. 31 minutes and we're back to town. So I'm going to go ahead and call this. I'll probably pick right up again from where we left off here because I think I've got another episode in me. So until then, enjoy yourselves. I hope you liked it.